what was the sin of Esau? Check out this video here. You'll see a little bit of it that I made on AI. All right, awesome. Nothing less. His sin was nothing less than breeding with Nephilim giants and satyrs. You might say, Zach, you're crazy. Huh? Me crazy? You might say that, but no, I'm a Christian and I believe the Bible. And today I'm going to show you without a doubt that not only did Esau and his neighbors bow down and worship these giants and these beasts, right? But they made their bed with them. They got real up close and personal with them. And because of that, they bowed down to him, right? They bowed down to him, made their bed with them, and hand in hand they entered destruction with them, right? Together to Sheol. This cute little satyr family that you'll see coming up sometime soon behind me is just an illusion. But they made their bed with them. They got real up close and personal with them. And because of that, they bowed down to him, right? They bowed down to him, made their bed with him, and hand in hand they entered destruction with them, right? Together to Sheol. This cute little satyr family that you'll see coming up sometime soon behind me is just an illusion. Their only goal is to drive you from God and bring the greatest curse down upon you as well. That's all they care about, is bringing you right down to Sheol with them so you can writhe in pain along with them so they won't be as lonely down there, right? Esau was cursed for the same crime, that brought the great flood. The same thing that made God destroy the entire earth by water is the reason that God cursed Esau's bloodline. So many people say, oh, why, how and why would God ever say he hated Esau? He's so mean. He's prejudiced, right? But that's not true. Esau made his own choices as men do. You know, so if you sit there and say God's mean, but you don't make your own choice, you're not a man. Right, so we're preaching to men today. We're preaching to Bible believers today. And if you can hold on long enough, you're interested in mythology, I can prove the Bible true and Saturn's true and all these things true. You just got to hang on and seek for yourself, right? Seek and you may find. Knock and the door will be open to you. Ask and it'll be given unto you, right? So I pray God blesses you with this episode, right? And so knowing that this caused a great flood, then I can prove it. The Bible that he gave his bloodline over to the beasts and demonic goat hybrids, right? Crazy. Are you interested? Then please join me as I dive in and prove this thoroughly using the Bible. If you like it, please share and subscribe with notifications on, because somehow I've already noticed, and it seemed to be that I've been shadow blocked because I've gotten 99.5% less impressions, less times that they show my video as a part of the screen as an option. It's gone down from 34,000 down to 1,000 on my last video, but still got an awesome number of people who watched and subscribed. Hundreds of hours, watched from just a few hundred people. So God's still being good. So if you like my idea, you like this video, please like, share, subscribe. That would really help me out. And with no further ado, let's start the show. Alright, and we're going to start off with Romans 9:13. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, and Esau have I hated. And the big question is why? All the atheists ask why would God do something like that? Why would God be so mean? And even the Christians are confused as to why. But today I think I put together and prepared an answer that few have heard of, and will definitely explain the question more as to why. We're going to get into the fact that Esau surely degraded and destroyed his lineage by sleeping around with the Nephilim, letting his bloodline intertwine with the Nephilim, which God cut off before the flood, and there always have been and always will be a curse. And we're going to get into that. So we know that it started off with Esau selling his birthright for a bowl of soup, crazy enough. And that was only a shadow of how little he cared for Abraham. That was only a shadow of how little he cared for God, or Abraham's God. And it showed that he took his heritage, his purpose in life, as a joke, a complete joke, and as a burden not worth lifting. And Esau, we know, was a strong man. He was the hunter. He was the one always going out and impressing his father, bringing home the venison, and able to lift burdens. This is a burden he did not want to even try to lift. He wanted nothing to do with godly ways. He sold his birthright for nothing, and it's only a shadow of that life of his to come and his choices to come, because he would fulfill the disowning of his heritage by marrying Canaanite women. He would finish that which he started by marrying and having children with women dedicated to pagan gods. Crazy enough. As first pointed out in Genesis 26:34, when Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith the daughter of Bred the Hittite to be his wife, and Bashemath the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. So as I remind you, we're going to get to the very exciting part. We're going to build up to it. So if you want to skip ahead, feel free to. But there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff in this detail as we build up to the sin of Esau, which is allowing his bloodline to sleep with basically satyrs. And I'll show you all the details for that in the Bible. So let's get off to an exciting start in this study. Let's check out Proverbs 5. We'll start off. But first, let's think about the question and then the scene before us. Why exactly did God want Esau to marry a specific people? What was God racist? Was God jealous? Was there something behind it? And of course there was. And the difference was Canaan had fallen deep into idolatry. Remember, Canaan was cursed basically by his father Ham for whatever weirdness happened there. And they got involved in idolatry and false god worship. They had been out making myths, just like we have like Egypt and Mizraim, right? We have these gentlemen, but in the land of like Israel and surrounding areas, they're out there making myths and creating themselves into gods by spinning lies and forcing people to bow down at the edge of the sword. So if they can't trick your mind, they'll force your body, is the way they felt. And as we started off with, and as we're going to develop into, they slept with entities that are biblically defined as Nephilim, a bloodline that survived post-flood when the Beni Elohim, the sons of God, came down from heaven and chose wives and had children with them, which are the giants of old, the men of renown, and that they were here before and after the flood, says the Bible. And so we're going to be developing that thesis, and it's not even a thesis, it's fully said and proven by the Bible. And so they slept with the Nephilim, they bowed down to false gods, they made false gods, they made false idols, and then what would they do once they got involved with these evil, wicked spirits? They started giving humans to the gods, throwing them into the fire, right, at an early age. I don't want to say it bluntly, but you know who they were throwing into a fire at an early age, and you know what I mean. They first bow down to El and Kronos and Baal / Zeus. El is Kronos, right? Baal is Zeus, basically, right? And soon they gave up their children to the Moloch. And I'll put a picture here to show what he looks like. But this is what they decided to do with the gift that God had given them. The country they had given them is bow down to separate gods because they wanted to get involved in the sin that these gods put in front of their face. And it devolved straight into evil. Straight into evil. Said simply, when you deny God and righteousness, you accept Satan and his lies. And if you work evil and do evil, if you open yourself up to evil, evil will be opened unto you, right? And that's what karma is. So we have the human portion of Esau. I'm going to go back to Esau. The human portion of it is him doing these things, the choices against his family, the choices against God's family per se, because he was getting what he wanted, right, for the time being. And then we see the spiritual side. We have the spirit of Satan focusing full effect on the family of Abraham, and his target here is Esau. See, selling his birthright for soup just revealed the character of Esau. He wanted what he wanted. All his life, his parents raised him well and strong. So strong he decided he didn't need them, or God, to do his own will. He'd marry women who would do the vilest, most perverted, most evil of things, yet that venom comes back to bite you. And that's why God tells us in Proverbs, through Solomon, the same Solomon who put his son through the fire and let altars to Baal be raised near God's temple in Jerusalem. This same Solomon, right, who said, vanity, vanity, vanity. Because when you do these things, your life becomes worthless vanity, and you get blown away by the chaff like the wind. But we don't know where Solomon is, if he made heaven or not. But he did do those vile things and got involved in those vile practices. And so we're going to get over here and look at Proverbs 5. It's going to develop into, because we'll see in Genesis 36 that it starts off with Esau taking a woman from these satyrs, right? The son of Esau took a woman from these satyrs, but we're going to develop that. Let's start off here in Proverbs 5. My son, be attentive to my wisdom. Incline your ear to my understanding, that you may keep discretion, and your lips may guard knowledge. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end she is as bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps follow the path to Sheol or hell. She does not ponder the paths of life, her ways wander, and she does not know it. Right? She doesn't even realize it herself, what she's doing, and that's only in some aspect, because we have the spirits that are pushing, and they don't fully understand the reason the spirits are pushing them. What they assume that they do, and this woman doesn't. It says she doesn't know all the evil that she's working, because see, having discretion allows your lips to guard knowledge, right? If you have discretion, you can keep discretion, which means you can keep knowledge. So let's look at a little commentary here that I wanted to show you. As we're seeing, literally, this verse expresses the purposes or results of the preceding. The first is that thou mayest regard discretion, literally to guard reflection. In other words, that thou may maintain thoughtfulness, you observe good counsel, you set a proper guard over your mind, right? And control your thoughts, what comes in, what comes out, what affects you, right? And so restrain them within proper and legitimate limits, or form such resolutions, which being well considered and prudential may result in prudent conduct. That doing these things, that taking an active part in your own thought process, your own mind, right? You end up setting guards over yourself, and you end up becoming stronger spiritually, mentally. And this is what gives you health. Mentally, you're able to overcome things that you weren't before, and it's only with the grace and the gift of God that He's given you the power to overcome these things, or else your mind would succumb to them. Whether you believe it or not, your mind will succumb to evil, wickedness, difficulties. Without God, there's no reason to stand. What purpose would there be to stand? Right. So as we look at this, what's it saying? So that your lips will speak right according to your consciousness, and not according to your lusts, not according to your emotions. Your emotions don't always speak the truth, right? And in doing so, we will raise your mind, raise your thoughts, and learn and know and understand how to speak knowledge, right? Raising that mind continually to get to the next level of knowledge, get to the next level of emotional understanding on how to control yourself. Because on the opposite side, it is no secret that hanging around deviance, as we saw the woman in Proverbs, as we're going to explain even more in Proverbs 5, as we see hanging around deviance, and some of us know from experience, it's no secret that at minimum it'll remove you from learning anything of value. And that spiral that's involved with this woman whose footsteps lead to hell, that spiral that goes down, no human can reach that far down. You'll be gone before you get that far down, right? The face of sin has a mask, and when that mask is revealed, you're dead. And a lot of people don't learn that until they learn it the hard way, unfortunately. So with that in mind, let's get into the crazy stuff, right? The deeper sin of Esau. What a lot of people probably been waiting for, the bloodline of the Nephilim. Let's check it out. Click on over to, what do we have here? Proverbs number 9. Proverbs number 9. The way of folly. Verse 13. A foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple and knoweth nothing. For she sitteth at the door of her house, on a seat in the high places of the city, to call down to passengers who go right on in their ways. Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. And as for him who wants understanding, she saith to him, stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he knoweth not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell. As we pop into here, we're going to see that this is just going to pop us into Rephaim, Nephilim, and we're going to show you that the sins of Esau, developing this idea that her footsteps lead to hell, and her guests are the Rephaim, the dead. So here we see the foolish woman seducing the simple man into her den of destruction. Little do they know, both. Except the last one, little does she know or he know. Now, she might know, but even witches do not understand the actual working of darkness for the most part. They don't. And little do they know her house is a house for evil spirits. That word foolish, right, is the antithesis, or the opposite, to wisdom. Wisdom is spiritual and is spoken of in Proverbs as a woman, right? Proverbs, wisdom is a woman standing at the gates of the city, seeking and speaking and looking out for those who listen to her, right? And so wisdom, it is a parable. If wisdom finds you and you accept wisdom, wisdom's calling out to you and wants to give you more. So if you accept wisdom, you get more wisdom. The antithesis of such is this godly wisdom is this woman of adultery and idol worship, who is out there seeking who would listen and who would follow her. She has the spirits of the dead who are said to be residing in the depths of hell, aka this word right here, as we're about to pop into, isn't just the dead, it's Rapha, as meaning Raphaim. So here we are in the Hebrew, Proverbs 9:18. But they do not know, he does not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of hell. How is that possible? Because they're spirits. These Rapha, 7496 here. What is Rapha? Rapha, as we'll see, in this instance means shades or ghost. Rapha, right? And as I'll point out here, every instance of Rapha in these verses points to an evil spirit that's in a negative place. It's not talking about your grandmother floating down from heaven, giving you, sweet little nothings in dreams. No, every one of these instances in the Bible, the departed spirits are trembling. Will the dead ever raise? Her tracks lead to the dead. It's not talking about the good dead, right? They're not talking about the good dead at all. And so if this Rapha is a departed spirit and it's negative, and they're talking about it over and over, let's see who the Raphaim were, the ones who owned those spirits of the Rapha, right? And so one of the best places that gives us so much information is going to be in Deuteronomy 2. We have so much information that's going to be tying in our study, right? And on top of that, look, this ties into our Kaftor and Mizraim study. We're proving that the children of Ham of the Bible are the ones who started Egypt and the god Ptah, right? And then because we're trying to tie in Kaftor, the son of Mizraim, coming from Egypt to go to Crete and then coming to Philistines, and we know that if finding the names to them are going to identify who these gods really are in the Bible. And so to point out what that verse is that we've gone over a couple times, this is here, Deuteronomy 2:23. A similar thing happened when the Kaftorites from Crete invaded and destroyed the Avites, who had lived in villages in the area of Gaza. So they're the same as what? Well, they're the same as Esau and Israel, who were told by God, go ahead and drive these wicked people out of the land. You know, and we're going to see that Esau did not kick them out of the land. No, he didn't. He actually bred with them and took them as, you know, concubines, which probably in some means slave, you know, a concubine, right? We'll just leave it at that. And so let's go ahead and I'm going to read through this, and then we're going to start picking it apart. Deuteronomy 2:10. A race of giants called the Emites, the Amim, aka, had once lived in the area of Ar. They were strong and numerous and tall as the Anakites, another race of giants. Both the Emites and the Anakites are also known as the Rephites, right? So here we go. The Bible is saying Amim and Anakim are the same as the Rephaim. And the Rephaim we're going to tie back, and I'll show you, we'll tie right back to the Nephilim giants from before the flood, and then that Genesis 6 saying, and they were also after the flood, right? So, the Amim and the Anakim are also called by the Rephaim, but the Moabites called them Emim. In earlier times, the Horites had lived in Seir, but they were driven out and displaced by the descendants of Esau. Esau on his way into his land, just like Israel on the way into their land from Exodus, right? In earlier times, the Horites had lived in Seir, but they were driven out and displaced by the descendants of Esau, just as Israel drove out the people of Canaan when the Lord gave Israel their land. And just like when Israel, when they came in, they had made mistakes, right? But the Moabites brought in those women, the Canaanites, in to sleep with them. So Israel made the same mistake as Esau. Okay, and Moses is bringing them, pushing them through, trying to get to the promised land, right? So we're going to skip ahead a little bit. When all the men of fighting age had died, the Lord said to me, today you will cross the border of Moab at Ar, and enter the land of the Ammonites, the descendants of Lot. But do not bother them or start a war with them. I have given the land of Ammon to them as their property, and I will not give you any of their land. That area is once considered the land of the, I'm going to call them the Eames, the Rephaim, who had lived there, though the Ammonites called them Zanzumim. We'll see that in Genesis. We'll see that in Genesis 14. That name. They were also as strong and numerous, as tall as the Anakim. But the Lord destroyed them. The Lord went before all these nations and killed these entities because, yeah, they're Nephilim anyway. So the Lord did the work, right? He had went before them. It says like before Israel, he had sent like bees, wasps to go and kill the giants before him. So most of them were taken out by God, right? So they were strong and numerous and tall, but the Lord destroyed them, so that the Ammonites, the Ammon, Ben Ammon is the son of Lot, and the Moabites is the other son of Lot, through the relationships with his daughter. He had done the same for the descendants of Esau who lived in Seir, for he destroyed the Horites so they could settle there in their place. The descendants of Esau live there to this day. A similar thing happened when the Kaftorites from Crete invaded and destroyed the Avites who had villages in the area of Gaza. Okay, go to my notes here. Remember the word Emim. We will find that Esau bred into these entities and into the Horites of Seir. And you know, here what we just read is pointing out and showing us through the Bible that these were parts of and bloodlines of the race of giants. Now I'll give you more verses to point out that Rephaim basically it equals Nephilim, right? And that'll prove to you that these are the Genesis bloodline 6-4 giants. You know, later on after the flood, as the Bible said they would be. Okay, and we're going to keep developing that. So let's talk about where we are geographically. I think that'll help a lot. The river Ar, right? So it says today you will cross the border of Moab at Ar. The river Ar divides Moabite land on the south side of the river from the Ammonite land to the north. You know, so as we look at this map here, we can start to appreciate the geography. The area of Ar can be defined as pretty large, basically like the modern day Jordan. Now to the south of Moab was Edom and Mount Seir of the Horites, the land and the people that Esau took over right here. As we see here, the Amim, in the verses, we see that the Amim lived in Seir. The Amim lived in Ar, right? So that's a huge chunk of land. They lived there. And so as we're looking into the sin of Esau, this people, this intermarriage, intercourse, right? This is what defines the great sin of Esau. This is what really it meant when he sold his birthright, because this is what you're not supposed to do, right? This is what the people of the curse do. All right, Esau is going to do more than just as in, say, verse 12, where it says drive them out. We'll see soon in Genesis 36 where they interbreed. As far as the Rephaim go, King Og and most likely Sihon were Rephaites. Og was probably 13 feet tall and maybe a foot or so taller. He was a Nephilim giant according to scripture. And he could have been taller than that, so we have the world cubit is 18. And I think Egypt has it coming in around like 20 inches. So that'd be 20 inches times, I forget how many cubits was in his bedstand, divided by 12, and you get something like 15 feet. And so I just took off some, make your bed a little bit taller than you. But these were real giants, and also satyrs, as we'll develop. Okay, I'll show you in Genesis 36 where it says that Esau interbred with these giants, and then I'm going to pop to another page just real quick to show that these entities are related to the pre-flood Nephilim and their hybrid children from angels. So as we pop here to Genesis 36, like I said earlier, remember the Amim, the Emites, as it was saying over and over again. Okay, to point that out, we'll start at 12. And Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, which is Esau's firstborn son, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek, right? And we remember, if you read the Bible in the Old Testament, Amalek is one of the nations, the first nations that come against Israel when they come into the land. So who is this Timnah, right? It says Timnah is the one who was his concubine. Every one of them else says they're his wives, but here we have one being called his concubine. And so we scroll down here, and we see, and the children of Lotan were Hori, Hamam, and Lotan's sister was Timnah. So who is Lotan? The son of Sair the Horite. And as I will show you in detail, Sair the Horite literally means a satyr, a goat devil, hairy man who lives in a cave. His literally biblical name, if we knew the etymology and did our study and diligence, we'd realize that his name means satyr, a dirty goat devil who lives in a cave. All right, we're going to jump back to that, but I wanted to read this because this is going to, if you need it to prove that these Rephaim, these Emim, these Anakim, as we seen that were already grouped together as under part of the Rephaim, this is going to help us prove through biblical. This is true. Okay, so here we'll start here. Moses confirms the spies' accounts in Deuteronomy 9, 1 through 2, where he says that Israel would cross the Jordan to dispossess nations greater and mightier than you, cities that were fortified and great up to heaven, a people great and tall, the sons of Anakim, whom you know, and of whom you heard it said, who can stand before the sons of Anak? Right, the people in the land, particularly Anakim, were in fact tall and mighty. Who were the Anakim? They were descendants of a man named Anak, whom we are told had 3 sons. Right, Sheshai, Ahiman, Taliman. If you know Persian stuff, Ahiman's an interesting name. Joshua later devoted the Anakim to destruction, only leaving them in Gaza, Gath, Ashdod. Right, and so those places right now, and since then, we've always had problems with, as God said we would, because they'd be a thorn in our sides for leaving them there.